Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first Stowe Talk Show. I am joined by the lovely Dragon 1608 and Omega Fighter, and if you don't know these guys are awesome. They are from the Breakfast Club, the fleet I'm currently in, and they have been helping me to do my science ships in PvE and PvP. So what you'll find quite quickly is that I know absolutely nothing and that they know everything. Well, I say everything because I'm probably giving them way too much credit, but they know loads about Stowe. They've been playing it far longer than me, and I kind of go to them and bow before their glory and knowledge, which is probably giving Omega especially a massive head at the moment because I've just said he's awesome. But Omega also has a YouTube channel, so I'm going to put that in the link, and I think, even though they're a bit nervous because it's their first one, I'm going to let them introduce themselves one after the other. So I'll start with Dragon, and then we'll go to Omega, and they can tell you a little bit about what they focus on and what they like playing in Stowe. So, Dragon, what do you like playing?
Yeah, alright guys, hi, I'm Dragon 1608. I've played this game mainly PvP focused because, yeah, that's the part of the game I enjoy. My main is a Psy, but I also play tech.
Awesome.
Mostly PvP both, but I can do PvE.
He can do a bit of everything. He loves a bit of everything. And then we've got the wonderful Omega. How you doing, Omega?
I'm getting far too much credit here, right? I mean, everybody knows I'm a scrub. However, well, I'm like, I'm just, playing the game. I'm actually not as old in this game as you think. I've just been very, invested, been browsing and searching and researching everything I could, doing PvE and PvP. PvP I started after season 13. And since then, I've been doing both, been going into it, mostly tactical style gameplay. I'm not doing any kind of support or just, healing or anything, just damage. It's always been my goal.
Yeah, to be the best. I mean, I will say, guys, when I first met Omega, he blew me up in approximately about 3 seconds, so that made me feel great. And Dragon taught me a lot as well, obviously, his science, and I'm pretty sure Dragon could blow me up in about 3 seconds too. So good stuff. But we're here to talk about the upcoming stuff, because that's the whole point of the Stowe Talk Show, is to talk about what's coming up. Because you guys already have some videos laid down on what's good. So again, just going to plug Omega's channel. Check Omega's channel out in the link if you want to see everything to do with tactical and you want to learn and a little bit more on PvP. If you want to see how to play that at the highest level, Omega's your man for that. And of course, don't forget to check out my own guide, which Dragon has helped me get written up on and Omega, I shall say, on how to main science and looking at the science PvE builds and some of the good gear that's around at the moment, because gear in Stowe, as you're going to find out from this talk show, changes all the time. There's always new starship traits and new consoles going out. I think there's got to be 400, 500 bloody consoles by now, but there's loads of consoles you can add to your ship that are obviously going to improve performance. So this is what this talk show is all going about. So this is for you, then stay tuned in. If it's not for you, then check out our other videos anyway, because I said so. Okay, right. So we got the news today. It came out on the 17th of January, and they said there was going to be an anniversary ship, and we were like, okay, what's the anniversary ship going to be? And then they said it was Bajoran. I then head-butted the wall because I was like, Bajoran, really? But yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's a Bajoran interceptor that's coming out. First of all, before we go into the stats, guys, what do we think of the look? It's a classic ship. What do we think?
I think it looks awesome. I mean, I definitely like it more than the last anniversary ship, which was the Dorito, that triangle thing. I like it more than the Flesh Droll because I think it looks very aerodynamic. While it doesn't matter in space, I just love the look of it. I just like it more than I think any anniversary ship they brought out so far.
Yeah, Dragon, how do you feel?
I can only agree with what Omega said. But to me, the ship almost always looked like a shuttle. Size ship, so I'm not too sure about that and how they will do it in the game. If it's larger or shuttle size, that would be pretty cool though. If they actually bought a shuttle sized
ship that's as good as
but looking at the pictures, it looks a bit bigger. But I do like the ship. I liked DS9, and so
I like the underside shot because they got that kind of nice, kind of orangey kind of glow in the phasers look awesome firing. That's a really nice shot.
Yeah,
that's my favourite. I think. Don't go on the top view is good, but I really love that underside. So she's an interceptor. She's T6. So she has. Let's start off from the top. So. Not going to go into the background, guys. You can read this on the blog, but apparently she features Lieutenant Commander Tactical with Pilot Specialist Bridge Officer seat and a Lieutenant Universal Pilot Specialist Bridge Officer seat. I'll get my words out. Other seats include, so we're looking at Bridge Officer stations, 1 Lieutenant Commander Tactical Pilot, 1 Commander Tactical, 1 Ensign Engineering, 1 Lieutenant Commander Science, 1 Lieutenant Universal Pilot. What are we thinking first of all, the Bridge Officer layout? Start with you, Omega, because I know interceptors are your thing.
Yeah, okay, definitely. Interceptors are my thing. But this thing is really got my interest because it's an interceptor with, let's say, the more than the average escort you get. For freebie, this is gonna be really good. You have the more than average hull capacity, like 43,000 almost, which is pretty impressive. Your pilot ships, they have like 38k, and like the raiders have like 35k. So this is gonna be a really solid ship. It's obviously tier 6. You can start from rank for like level 40. It has 5 in the front, 2 in the aft, which is an escort player's dream. You don't want anything else. And obviously you get the experimental weapon slot, which any ship nowadays gets. And this ship comes with its own little experimental weapon. We're all gonna be curious what that's gonna be like. Let's hope it's gonna be very viable, because for right now we only have the free experimental weapon and we have the flak shot artillery, and they're both kind of meh. So let's hope this is gonna be a great substitute, which is obviously an account unlock. So if you make a new character or whatever, and you want, and you can just get it, and it's a good Admiralty card as well, from what it seems like.
Would you go? Would you go double pilot, or would you use the universal for something else?
No, I would probably go ahead and use the Lieutenant Commander Tactical Pilot, like full pilot. So I'd probably run like hold together 2. You could then run, or like just use the Lieutenant Commander Tactical Pilot for as much pilot as can. Run the Commander Tactical full tactical, like with Rapid Fire 3 or Scatter Volley 3 or whatever you want to do. Beta 2, Omega 1, depending on what you're doing. And then obviously the rest, the Universal, I would run like Engineering, because just an Ensign Engineering is a no-go. And you need every bit you can get there.
Right.
So that's going to be a bit lackluster on this ship, the Engineering. You're just going to have an Ensign and the Lieutenant.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that's the weak point of the ship. It has not enough engineering to run Ox to bed. So you have to think of maybe Ox to Dampeners build. Maybe. I don't know.
Base turn rate 18 degrees a second. How you feel about that?
That's pretty solid. I mean, that's more than most of your regular escorts. It's not as much as a pilot escort, but it's definitely like better than your heavy escorts like the NX or your Amari or the Defiant and all that. It's better than that and worse than the pilot ones.
Okay.
I can live with it. Okay. And the console looks also pretty solid. I mean, for tactical, some might not like it. I generally almost never run 5 locators or 5 tactical consoles, so I guess it's not a massive deal. But yeah, like I said, you can possibly pull off an Octabat build with 1 Octabat and other cooldown mitigations, because that's actually been something that some DPSs I know have been doing, like run only 1 Octabat with 3 Duffs and then have like some points in the skill tree and then a few concepts that take care of that. So that's definitely going to be an option. I think it can be mitigated.
So can equip dual cannons? Do we care? Are you worried?
No, that's any escort has
that. Was to be expected, to be honest.
Because I don't know why they still put that stuff in, really, because they seem to like to repeat sort of like standard things that is going to come.
I'd like to be clear. I mean, I guess if you're a new player and you don't know that every escort has a can do dual cannons, it's nice to see.
So that brings us nicely onto the Starship Mastery package for this ship as an escort, because she is an escort. First of all, unlock precise weapon systems, so plus accuracy. Second, unlock tactical maneuvers plus defense. Third, unlock enhanced weapon systems, so plus all damage. Fourth, devastating weaponry plus critical chance. And we'll come to the Starship trait in a bit. Happy with the first 4 though?
Yeah, it's pretty okay. I personally prefer critical severity on the 4th, to be honest. But that's like to be expected. Most escorts come with the crit chance. Just a few come with crit severity. But you know, your Zen ones, they all have crit chance, if I remember.
It's the escort package.
Yeah, it's the escort package.
The other one being the what's it called again? Destroyer package.
A Destroyer has crit chance and crit severity, but there's another escort one that has crit severity instead of the crit chance.
Yeah. The big one, the Starship trait, harrying maneuvers. We'll come. I know they do this in the blog, but the consoles first. But we'll come back to the console. I think it's more important to go to the Starship trait first. So we'll cover that, guys, first. And if you're reading the blog, sorry it's out of order, but that's just me. So harry maneuvers, activating emergency power to engines or any pilot bridge officer ability will temporarily grant you a major increase to accuracy rating, along with bonuses to shield penetration and armor penetration. In addition to these bonuses, your weapons gain a chance to render one subsystem offline at random once per second. This bonus may only be gained once every several seconds. So, major increase to accuracy.
Yeah, I guess we're talking about a pretty high number here. But given that accuracy in PvE is pretty useless on its own, like you get the accuracy overload, obviously, on single target cases, where you get like a increase in crit chance and crit severity. But given that you can only trigger it now and then, like it's only every few seconds, and we don't know how long it lasts, I guess its use in PvE will be rather limited. I guess when you have a new character, running it can't hurt, obviously, but as well as that, the ship is pretty good. So if you make a new character, especially tactically, you're gonna love this thing to start with. But I guess outside of PvP, the applications of the trait are going to be limited. And I think in PvP, it's a good starter trait. Like until you have like all this high-end stuff, this is probably going to be pretty usable for like PvP in case you're into that.
So you think like if there was someone that wanted to start their career in the PvP area in Stowe, that this is, as an escort pilot, obviously, this is one to go for at the start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this is gonna be, a freebie. You know, it's not gonna be the best trade ever, but I think it's gonna be pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, shield penetration, armor penetration, not bad things to have, really.
But still,
obviously, we don't know the amount, do we? That's the thing. We don't know the amount at the moment, and we can only guess.
Cryptic has never really given us the freebie traits have never been extremely overpowered. So I guess we're gonna get like an okay amount of armor pen, like 10 to 20 maybe, but if it's only lasting you a few seconds and maybe similar amounts of shield pen, I don't think it's going to be game-changing.
Okay. Console Universal, it's called the Domino. Hopefully I'll pronounce this right, because you never know with Cryptic. The Denorius Offense Matrix and Invader Neutralization Overdrive. It's a complex training system used by the Bajoran Defense Ministry to heighten combat awareness. So basically, by overdrive, select weapon systems, then cross-wiring the available blah 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 blah. It recognises when an enemy is defeated, combat performance may be improved. So temporarily, and then rewarded by extended improvements. Wiring this training protocol into bridge systems allows combat-ready performance increases, even if they must be earned. It doesn't really tell us much, really, as always. It provides a passive boost to phaser damage and accuracy. So they're really piling on the accuracy. So passive boost to phaser damage and accuracy. This console may be equipped in any console slot on any starship, but you can only have one of them, as always. So
I think this is gonna be good. Like for PvE, which is what most people are gonna be interested in, I do think this is gonna be a pretty good build. And a lot of people like to do the good old Federation roleplay where they run phasers. So additional phaser damage can never hurt. Yeah, accuracy is maybe not the best thing ever, but I wouldn't complain about it. To me, it sounds like a better version of the M6 computer, to be honest. That's probably what it's gonna be.
And with the boost to what damage or like overall?
Yeah, damage? The M6 basically gives you like bonus damage and accuracy and whatever.
Yeah, so, I guess we'll have to see when it's in game what it exactly does and how long it lasts for. So maybe we'll cover that off in another show when we've actually got our hands on it. Experimental weapons called Voice of the Prophets. That's very cliche, but there we go. Voice of the Prophets was blah 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 blah, something about mining machinery. We don't know much about it. It doesn't tell us much. It just tells us it's an experimental weapon. So it generates a dense cloud of compressed particles that facilitate high-intensity pressure waves to be sent through the vacuum of space. So again, typically cryptic. No idea what it does, but another experimental weapon. How do you guys actually feel about experimental weapons?
Well, so far you've got a couple, you got a few that are like we were thinking about, but there right now you have only 2 that are like in terms of performance are like top dog, and then you have the few others that cheaper and more people to use them. But right now you have those one weapon that's just far better than all the others, and then you have like the rest, which is okay, and then you have a few that are just useless.
Yeah, like the standard one.
I mean, bearing in mind this is free ship, then do you think they'll put a decent experimental weapon on?
I think so far we've only gone like upwards. They haven't really brought one recently that has been total crap. So every time they bring a new one, I think it's getting better. I don't think it's gonna be better than the one on the Shukden, the Shallow, which is currently the best one. But I think it's probably gonna be like about railgun level, if not a bit better, which is great. That's my personal expectation. I have no idea, but I hope.
Would you want it, Dragon? That's the question. Would you want the voice of the prophets, or would you rather stay with what you're using now?
I have the Shukden heavy weapon as well, and I will stay with it. Most likely, and of course we have to test it out and see what effects it does in actual combat.
Yeah.
But yeah, most likely the Shukden heavy weapon will stay.
Then we come on to, so they're adding in some more warp cores. We've got the Bajoran Defense Hyper Injection warp core. Doesn't tell us much other than it's just a joint sort of Federation warp core. It emits an energy siphon field in the proximity around the vessel, which can affect multiple targets. So when
it looks interesting for drain builds, I guess. For drain builds, this might be interesting. I mean, we don't know exactly what else going to have, but with the energy siphon into orientation, this might be.
Do you think it would be something? I suppose Dragon, you would slot on a Scryer or something like that.
Again, depends on how it does in combat, but I don't think it's a bad warp core. Just from looking at the description here. On a side, you have always multiple options, but most PvP players prefer one with a jump.
Yeah,
so that would be maybe a downside, but
I guess it depends on the proximity and how large the box, because they do have an obsession with 3 kilometers, don't they? With a lot of area of effect stuff. So yeah. I'm just wondering if it's going to be, if you'll find out it's like 3 kilometers, which isn't bad, but it's not great. So
you can work with it, but it sounds more like an additional if you have a drained target that is already standing still, and then you can throw another debuff on them, and this sounds like one of those secondary debuffs to keep a target drained.
Yeah. Hyper injection singularity core, same thing, obviously energy siphon field. So you got the Robin version basically. Overall, what's your final thoughts on the ship, Dragon? Fly, not fly?
Well, I think I will of course get it because it's free, and for people to start out in PvP, I think it's a decent ship. You can work with it. It's not gonna be anywhere near the top, but especially the Starship trait looks quite interesting as not as a top Starship trait, but as a Starship trait to have until you get what is best in slot currently.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like this thing is gonna take 15 days to grind. If you do the mission right off the bat, you're gonna get 400 prize vouchers, 600 to go. It's 15 days of grind, and I think for PvE this is gonna be a really solid option. The console is probably gonna be something you'd want. The ship, if you make a new character, you don't have a lot of like Zen ships. This is gonna be a great Admiralty supplement. This is gonna be a really good ship to fly. Overall, I mean, for free ship, this is gonna be a steal. So I think you can't go wrong with it.
Can't go wrong. So there you go, guys. That is the Tier 6 anniversary ship, the Bajoran Interceptor. So I'm getting from the guys a thumbs up. If you had to give it a rating out of 10, just from what you know already, what would you give it?
For anniversary ship, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. Dragon?
Yeah, considering it's free, I will go with it.
Okay, and that brings us nicely, folks, to the one you've all been waiting for, the new Lockbox, which is the second update we're talking about today in the Stowe Show, and that is we knew it was coming, and whether you are a lover or hater of new Star Trek Discovery, because it's a bit like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it. Then you are going to now be able to get hold of, through the Lockbox, both the Crossfield class, that's Discovery herself, or you can also get the Sarcophagus dreadnought carrier, so that's the ship of the dead if you've watched the series, or you can also get the Shenzhou, which is the ship that they started at the start of the series, which is the first ship you see in sort of the pre-series bit. So they're available. There's some other things like uniforms and stuff coming out, but we'll start right at the top, which is with Discovery herself. There's 2 shots of her in game. First thoughts on just how she looks in game?
Really good. I think this is a really good model. Like, they did a good job there. I mean, even if you don't like the series, even if you don't like Star Trek Online or whatever, if this ship is a good model of what you have in the series, I think they have done a good job there.
Yeah, I agree on that. And judging also the starship from the show, I kind of had to get used to it, but now I really like it, and I'm really looking forward to the console.
I actually think she ironically looks better in Stowe than she looks in the show in some ways. It's mad, isn't it, to say? But she looks really nice.
But keep in mind, those are promotional shots, yeah. So
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we'll see. I can't imagine her looking much worse. But
there's actually already a video from some guy who actually, gets early hands on, like where he did, like, the in-game engines with the demo record. So you actually have in-game footage, so to speak, of the ship already.
So, well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that one. But I mean, yeah, I think she looks good. She looks good. Time will tell, I guess. We'll see her in game, and then we'll make a judgment call then. So basically, these are going to be the sort of grand prizes for the Lockbox. So the Crossfield class Science Vanguard T6. So she's a science ship. That makes sense. She's a science ship in the show. If we look at what they're saying about her, she comes with, because we don't have any stats yet, but what we can see is that she comes with a console universal mycelium ambush, and this one I gotta admit, as a science player, this tweaks my interest a little bit. So let me just read this out. When this console's power is activated, your starship's weapons will be temporarily disabled as your ship instantaneously moves forward to a destination some distance from your current position. Upon arrival at your destination, a pulse of energy is discharged, impeding the engines of nearby ships while enhancing your own ship's weapons for a brief period. After a few seconds, multiple payloads of torpedoes are released, and your starship's weapons are briefly disabled again in order to instantaneously move backwards to your original position.
Spore jump.
That is basically a spore jump, but it sounds like a PvP kind of feel to me. Moreover, yeah. I'm not sure it'd be good in PvE, but that's my first impressions. I'm going to start with Dragon this time. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks interesting. I'm not sure how useful it can be on a science ship, since it comes on a science ship. So people kind of want to use it on the Discovery. I mean, from a support science player standpoint, it says impeding the engines of nearby ships. So depending on what that is, if it's is it a disable, or is it just a slow, but I don't know. It could be good, but since we don't have stats, it's hard to tell.
I mean, if it's a disable, that's awesome. If it's a slow, that's not so awesome. It depends how much the slow would be. But you'd hope for a disable.
Yes, that would make the console pretty good for a science player, I think.
Yeah.
That also depending on how long the disable holds, but it says for a brief period, so you kind of have to time it well. But imagining it with multiple people in a team, that one could be the first the first strike, and then maybe a drain or a disable or some holds. But
do you think
promising.
this could be the science version of getting their own back on those TAC players with their escorts? I don't think it's going to be that good, but one can dream. One can dream.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Only in a combination of if like multiple people have it, then maybe. But I don't think it's going to be that crazy good.
Okay. So yeah, I think. I think it looks interesting. It depends what the torpedo release is. Multiple payloads of torpedoes released. Does that mean your torpedoes? Does that mean some kind of...
I think it's going to be an independent torpedo. I think it's going to be like, regardless of what you run. But let's put a PvE light on it because we still know most people do PvE. I think this is going to be I mean, it's hard to say, but if it's like going to teleport you and it's going to buff your weapons. On a science ship, I think this is generally going to be like a twisted thing because it buffs your weapons, and you know, we play in science, you don't really do weapons so much. I think it's going to be maybe viable for PvE. I don't think it's going to be stunning because it's going to give you briefly disabling you, teleport you. So I think it's a bit... It's a twisted console, and it's like, you know, only time will tell.
It suits Discovery. I don't think personally that I would see it fitting into my current science loadout. That's for PvE. I don't think it's... Because mine's very much set up around, you know, area of effect damages, and the disable's really not worth it in PvE.
Yeah,
you know?
like a slow or whatever.
Yeah, or if it is a slow, it's even less worth it. Really, it's just, you know, I've got enough control effects already, so I don't really need another one. And also, I don't really want to be setting my weapons offline. And the torpedoes, I don't know. I don't think it would go. I don't think I could see it replacing anything on mine, just for the, just for the ability. That's my view.
But I mean, look at the visual of the console. I mean, don't you want to run it? I mean, if I had the ship, I would run the console no matter the cost, actually, because just look at it. It looks so good.
Lightning in space is cool.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, you can impress people with it. I mean, it just looks stunning, that's for sure.
I mean, that's just me as a Star Trek fan, but it looks really,
I guess for anyone who appreciates the glory of space, Barbie, they're just gonna fucking scream about this.
If you like particle effects, then get the console. If you want to do anything serious, don't get the console. So that's the mycelium ambush. If you complete the mastery path, you get the following starship trait: Black Alert. A temporary adjustment to the spore drive allows temporarily displaced duplicates of your ship to assail the targeted foe with torpedo spreads for a brief period of time. Initiate the sequence by activating beam overload, cannon rapid fire, or any intelligence bridge officer ability. That's Black Alert. Thoughts of Black Alert?
I think that depends on how much damage do your duplicates do. Like, honestly, if they do a lot of damage or a decent amount of damage, this might be really cool and a especially cool looking trait. If they don't do much damage, if they're like photonic fleet, then it's gonna be pretty useless, but probably still look nice.
The thing is, most sci players aren't going to be running beam overload or cannon rapid fire. Let's be honest. That's really not.
True,
intelligence.
Intelligence, maybe, yeah. And since this trait mentions intelligence, I think that this ship will have
intelligence slot.
Yeah, and I think at least a lieutenant, maybe lieutenant commander. It will not have a commander. Intel, since it's not an Intel starship. But I mean, lieutenant or lieutenant commander Intel. I think that's possible. Yeah, and what Omega says, like the duplicates are just NPCs for PvP standpoint. They will not, in any situation, be useful. Since they're just so slow and PvP is so fast at the moment in the current meta, it's going to be pretty useless, I think.
I mean, that could be interesting if you're playing the Crossfield. That could be fun to run. You know, just for like, again, it's another area of effects. It depends how much damage the torpedo spreads do. You know, we just, you know, when we get those, I think you need to test it, but that could be interesting. Oh, mind you, it says assail the targeted foe with torpedo spreads. So is that a single target? Because the torpedo spread to me is multiple targets, but it says the targeted foe.
Well, we'll see about that. I don't think we can tell for now. I guess it could be
Yeah.
a single target, multiple tropes, or it could be multiple tropes, multiple targets.
Also
Come on,
interesting.
Cryptic.
Also interesting is where's the cooldown? It doesn't say anything like this can only be activated once every 30 seconds or anything. If it is actually with every activation of Overload, Rapid Fire, or an Intel Bridge Office ability, that's a point to look at, I think. I mean, I think it will have a lockout of, I think, at least 15 or 30 seconds. But just reading the description, it doesn't say anything.
Yeah, well, that's typical Cryptic on their blogs, but that could be interesting. We'll have to wait and see. And that one's open to a little bit more of interpretation, I reckon. But yeah, interesting. Then we're on to the Sarcophagus dreadnought carrier, or the Ship of the Dead. First of all, it's a dreadnought carrier. I know already how Omega feels about carriers, so...
No, I love this ship. I love this ship, honestly. I love this ship.
What, because of the way it looks, or...
The way it looks and the fucking cloak. Okay, I know this is not... I shouldn't use this word, but I saw this video where the dude was, like, you know, showcasing the gameplay footage, and the cloak is like, it's completely different. It's like, you should link it in the description. I'm going to send it to you afterwards, this video, where I showcase the visuals and everything. Also the spore jump from the Discovery. But the cloak of this thing, that's enough reason for me to just get it for that.
So basically, you should get it just for the cloak. That's what you're saying.
You should get it for the cloak animation, yes.
Just for the animation. So we're going on looks again. So basically, she gets a universal console called multi-target tractor arrays. These tractor arrays designed to facilitate retrieval of the fallen warriors, but essentially, when they're activated, they will they're capable of immobilizing and debilitating nearby foes over a brief period of time. A total of 12 tractor arrays will be activated by this ability, each targeting nearby foes and severely slowing them while dealing a moderate amount of kinetic damage directly to their hull. If any foe is caught by more than one tractor, the damage of each is increased as the tractor beams tear the unfortunate ship in opposite directions while dragging them closer to the Sarcophagus starship. So,
this looks like tractor beam reporters with Graga Mal on steroids. That's what it is. I think in PvE this might actually be a lot of fun to just drag him around. For PvP maybe too. I think this is generally going to be an interesting, fun console. If the tractor beams do a lot, like enough damage, this might actually be also good. You know, push your damage in a run. Actually have a lot of control, and depending on how impairing it is onto the enemy, it can actually be pretty useful.
So it's a universal console.
Yeah, it can be installed on any ship. So if you're Federation, you're just gonna be able to get it that easy, and you know most of you are. So this is gonna be, you should just probably pick it up just to play with it. Honestly.
Are we thinking Science Dragon?
Also, I'm not sure about that. If it works like a regular tractor beam, and it can be like with a placated, it can be interrupted, then it's not gonna be good. If it's not affected by those placates or anything that interrupts a tractor beam, maybe yes. I'm not sure. Does it have a range saying in the description here? No. So it's around. So I think it's 10 kilometers then, not?
Usually tractor beam is 5 kilometers.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, maybe.
If it's 10 clicks, that's pretty. It sounds pretty decent.
Impressive. I mean, 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers also. I mean, it's an all right.
12 tractor arrays. So does that mean it can target 12 players?
Yeah, it could target as many, like up to 12 different targets. And if there's less targets, the tractor beams apparently do go together and be more effective onto one target.
I mean, if it can't be placated and it can target up to 12 ships,
I don't think it can be placated. I don't think it can be placated because it's an AOE.
But that would have some impact in PvP. Surely.
I'm sure, yeah. If you had only like 3 targets in range for that ability, that would mean 4 tractor beams per target.
Oh.
So it says it stacks. So that's, I mean, it requires testing and whatnot, but at least from the description, it looks pretty interesting.
See, for me, if it is that way, this is the more interesting of the two. for players to seek out.
If it's actually what it says in the description, and maybe
potential could be
is quite good. Yeah.
If you had, everyone's gonna hate us, but if you had it running on 2 scryers, we'll move on. Mastery Path allows you to get the following starship trait: Honor Dead. In times of war, the Honor Dead will serve as your shield. Due to this cross-faction availability, the above consoles... Oh, sorry, that's a different one I've gone past. This one results in stacking benefits to damage, resistance, and passive hull regeneration. Once you reach maximum stacks, this additional damage will instead grant a small amount of temporary hit points.
Really hard to say. Just, this could be a really good trade for tanking. Depending on how much the values are and how much it's a stack and how many temporary hit points, this could be good. This could also be useless. I think this only time can tell, honestly.
Yeah, it's too woolly, isn't it? Really,
Too vague.
Too vague to really know. So we need to see the stats, guys. But
I mean,
damage resistance.
I mean, if you think maximum stacks, that means it has like at least 5, maybe 10 stacks.
It's probably 5. I reckon it's 5.
So resulting in damage resistance. So if it had like 1 damage resistance, I mean just 1, it would be pretty useless. But if it has like, I don't know, 10 per stack, that would be pretty good. So as Omega said, it's really hard to tell. But coming to the second, the second part. When you reach maximum stacks, temporary hit points, those are pretty bad, in my opinion. Since they have no damage resistance applied to them, they go down like hit points from a Borg. That's
It's just not. I think that was a wait and see. I'm not excited. I'm excited about the console. I'm not excited about the trait at the moment.
And considering you only have 5 maximum traits, starship traits, that is, I don't think that will be anywhere near good.
Yeah, it wouldn't take a slot, I don't think. So Black Alert maybe?
Potentially. Black if the whole and PvE, if they do a decent amount of damage, just potentially. Honor Dead has potential if the numbers are good enough. And the tractor array has potential in both PvP and PvE. And the Mycelium Ambush is just hard to say. I don't think it's going to be that great for PvE.
Okay, if you had to score both ships out of 10, what would you give them based on what you know at the moment?
Okay, Discovery, I'd give it a 7, 6, 7. But with the console, with Spore Jump, I'll give it an 8. Spore Jump, and the Sarcophagus, well, I'd give it like a 6 because I don't like. But the Cloak, I'll give it also an 8. Okay, and the console seems promising.
I would actually give it a higher rating than that, considering it has Intel Bridge Officer abilities. Well, very likely. We don't actually know, but the trait says it.
It's likely.
It's likely, yeah. So
they're based off like
that it's a lieutenant, maybe not as effective as a lieutenant commander. But I mean, just look at the console. It's really beautiful. So I would probably give it an 8, considering the visuals.
Right. Okay. And the Sarcophagus.
The Cloak.
That breath there was like.
Yeah. Again, it's really hard to tell without having tested the console. But if the console does what it says in the description and is not affected by placates or anything, then I think it's pretty good. Trade is trash, I think it's trash since the maximum stacks and all that, and then you get temporary hit points. Doesn't look really good at the moment. It's probably a 7, maybe a 6. The Cloak looks really nice though. So, yeah, I give it a 7. Yeah, 7.
So I think they made a slight typo there. Crossfield above consoles very quickly. They've definitely made a typo there. We're going to ignore that because we know what's available. So you can get vice versa. Finally, there is the Walker class light exploration cruiser, which is actually the Shenzhou. You can just tell from the design, which is also featured in Discovery at the start. She comes with a console universal obfuscation screen. It's a suite of sensor screens that succeeds in convincing nearby foes that your starship has been disabled. It comes with the requirement of holding the ship in place and preventing all abilities from being activated. During this period of time, your ship's hull and shields will rapidly replenish. This mode may be disabled voluntarily at any time after a brief activation period, at which point the advantage gained from this ruse is translated into increased damage from all sources. The duration of this ambush bonus is equivalent to the amount of time your ship remained disabled, 20 seconds max.
Well,
who wants to go?
It's a pretty interesting console. I'd say the practical application in PvE is probably limited. If the buff is like high enough, you could like, you know, in a pre-made scenario at the start, everybody hits it and then go in for 20 seconds and get the buff. And if you're like in PvP, this could be interesting. I mean, you're in a troublesome situation, you lock yourself down, nobody can touch you, and they don't know when you're gonna come out of it, and you're gonna get that buff. Well, I think it's an interesting console. I don't know if it's gonna be OP, if it's gonna be great, if it's gonna be bad, because like, again, these descriptions are just too vague. Numbers is what we need.
I agree on that, but the concept of the console that you do nothing for maximum 20 seconds and then get buffed for the same amount of time, it's
well, look, it's like, you know, you freeze yourself.
It looks stupid. It's like you take a break and
get a coffee.
Go make a coffee and come back, and then you get the huge damage buff. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this console. It looks interesting, but gameplay style is bad.
It doesn't look good, but I mean, you know, Omega's got something in that. If it does like massively buff, I can see people taking advantage of it just to get buff. Is it worth a slot though? Because you got to lose a slot Omega on your.
Well, you keep forgetting that those concepts have passive effects, and if those are also good, it won't just come with a clicky, obviously.
It depends what the passive effect is. We'll have to see, because I don't know. It's too. I don't think PvE is.
No,
I wouldn't run it in PvE.
Probably a PvP thing.
Well, they're gonna post the stats in a couple of days, so we might also go over that when they come up.
Yeah. They gain access to the following starship trait: Vulcan Hello. So the Vulcans were first adopt this tactic in a widespread manner, and this technique is named in honour of these early encounters. When entering combat, your weapons gain a shield and armour penetration bonus, and a weapon power drain from energy weapon activation is reduced for a brief duration. Strike first, strike hard. It is only logical.
Looks promising. I mean, for PvP, this is gonna be the thing. Because if it's like, you know, alpha burst oriented, this is probably gonna be really interesting. For PvE, I think it's.
Is it going to excite you the most out of everything?
No, I think the most interesting is still the spore jump. I mean, what do you think? Here I am.
Well, traits wise,
well, the issue with Vulcan Hello is that if it says when entering combat. So if they don't only get the buff when entering combat, it's pretty useless in PvE since you're in combat non-stop. Like, if it's for a brief duration, you're gonna get the buff, and then you're gonna have no benefit from it the whole time. But for PvP, where you enter combat, and especially when you're cloaking and you get out and in, this has potential. While in PvE, I think it's gonna be utterly useless.
Yeah, but the PvP focus is Vapor, so only Vapors actually benefit from this trait.
But it's interesting though. That is
the whole ship.
You are a Vapor.
The whole ship looks pretty PvP focused, to be honest. The console is a PvP console. You don't have any use for it in PvE, I think. And also the trait. When do you end the combat and then go back into combat in PvE?
You don't.
No,
it's just
you're
like
constantly in combat.
Yeah. It stinks of PvP, doesn't it? It's whether the ship. You don't care about the ship really. Well, I don't know because I don't know the stats of the ship, do we? Or do we? No, we don't. So, but definitely something to add to PvP. We'll see, guys, if this one is something. Well, the tell will be if Omega suddenly goes and buys one, because then I'll know straight away.
I'll buy one anyway. That's the thing.
He'll just get it anyway. But if he starts slotting everything, we'll know. So complete stats and digitalization will be in a separate developer blog, so we will have that information at some point. We'll try to cover that, guys.
I guess that will be at Monday. If this comes out at Tuesday, they'll post it at Monday, because this weekend they don't post it yet.
Yeah. Players may also obtain a new set of genetic resequences in order to unlock access to 2 new ground traits and 2 new space traits. The ground traits are as follows. Universal Loyalty for lackeys. While in combat each second, you gain bonus damage if you haven't been damaged in the past second, or a boost to damage resistance rating otherwise. Stacks up to 10 times.
Looks like rapid repair crews to me, like for PvE. Because you're like in combat, you're being attacked all the time, pretty much. So you could just get a resistance. You don't get a damage benefit, making it a pretty... Well, you get resistance. If it's more than repair crews, this might be like, if it gives like, 5 per stack, I don't know, 3 per stack, this might be pretty good. If it's like, if it's like 1 per stack or 2 per stack, you might just pass on it. It depends.
Will it stop you from one-shotting me with your Bullion cannon?
Yeah.
That's what I care about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it will, because the Bullion cannon, if you get 1 shot, you don't get a stack, right?
Yeah. So this is the problem. I don't think it's going to be that useful, because let's be honest, people are going to be running around with Bullion cannons one-shotting you anyway. And if you run into a science player, you're just going to get burned.
No, honestly, now if you think about it, and if it's obviously I forgot it's ground. If you have ground, they have 2 variants. I was on the wrong one. But for if you do ground PvP, for me as a Bullion player, I like this, because I come in, I'm not touched by anyone, and just get a benefit. For PvE, depending on the queue, obviously, like some queues where you don't get touched for a long time, some queues where you get touched all the time.
The thing about this is it's a thing that benefits, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. It benefits you as a tactical player, but it screws me as a science player, where my damage is over time. So that's how I feel about it. It depends how quickly it stacks.
Yeah.
And that, because if it's basically going to be the counter to dots, isn't it, really? Let's be honest, because it's a stacking resistance. So I don't know. How do you feel, Dragon? Because that's how I feel as a science player. It's kind of like a finger up to us.
I don't know. It doesn't really benefit the Psi and a support build much. On a damage build, I think the attack benefits more of this.
Yeah,
but again, you need to make sure that you don't get attacked to get the damage boost. But
there's something I just
bonus
realized.
Damage, which is mostly good.
If you look at this detail, it says while in combat. Remember, so you don't get the buffs out of combat. So while in combat, you obviously get attacked. So I don't see the sense, because you're rarely in combat where you don't get hits. The damage is something you probably never get.
Yeah, I think it'll be the resistance. I still think it's more designed for saving players from science players. That's what I think. That's how I feel. Brutal impetus. Nearby enemies dying increase your damage for a short duration, which is
can't go wrong. I mean, if the number is properly, like if it's not bad, if it's like not just 3%, then this is potentially a good one.
That's very team combat focused. I mean, that's literally like you in ground combat, you run into the entire enemy team with your team and you manage to kill one, and then that just buffs all your damage, because you know what it's like. Ground combat can be
but most PvE queues you have like a lot of NPCs dying left and right, so this is
PvE. Yes, I suppose PvE. It would be
if you forget,
good.
most
PvP,
of your audience are PvEs.
Yeah.
So that's alright.
That's all right, but I like PvP. So yeah, that's a PvE one, guys. That would be really good for PvE, depending on what the damage is, depending on what the increase to damage is. That's
and same story for the space ones. Honestly, like there's just no point just repeating ourselves here, because I think the space one where the enemies dying close to you is more valuable, because I think on space you have much more pew pew and explosions than on ground. Like more NPCs dying, so you'll probably have a more higher benefit. Also gives you accuracy, benefiting your crit chance and crit severity in PvE. So I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. See, you're always getting shot in space as well. I'm not sure where you're going to get the... because tanking doesn't work in this game, really. You know what I mean? It's an aggro tank. Like, the engineers actually tanking something and keeping aggro off you. That's never going to happen. So you're never going to gain bonus damage. I don't think on either of those you're going to gain bonus damage. I think you're always going to have resistance.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I don't even know why they bothered. They might as well just done resistance. But anyway, scientists and engineers throughout time also managed to get their hands on a few universal kit modules from the era of Star Trek Discovery. Oh, that's amazing! That is this old technology. Choose your pain. Decrease the target's damage resistance rating. That target picks one of their nearby allies. A portion of the damage dealt to your primary target is also dealt to the foe chosen for pain this way.
Distributed.
Did I read that right?
Distributed targeting for ground. It looks like. Obviously, also for space. I mean, this is it's kit modules. So it's ground. So it's like distributed targeting for ground. Pretty much.
Yeah. Parabellum. Yeah, but it's the way it says it. That target picks one of their nearby allies. that's just
like, you know, you choose who you're screwing with. You know, if you're like, you know, you're gonna die, I'm gonna take this guy down with me.
Pikachu, I choose you. Parabellum, prepare for war. Anyone who shoots the marked target has their kit modules cooldowns reduced.
That sounds overpowered to me. I mean, if this is like if you use this and it applies to yourself, obviously you hit your target. This is like gonna reduce your cooldown of the kit modules, and you're just gonna if there's no cap on it, if it can just, you know, reduce them below universal, it's gonna you're just gonna spam your kit modules, especially like polar and bombardment and stuff like that. I think this is gonna be if it's not mitigated in any way, I think it's gonna be OP for ground.
That's a wait and see. I like the idea of kit reduction though, cooldown reduction. That makes me smile as a science player.
Oh yeah. Miniature spore relay, ground spore jump.
Leaving mines behind as well. Just like, I'm going to teleport forward and just fart out some mines here on the ground.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Can't really say much about that.
But then mines...
If it has the same animation as the spore jump in space, I'll use it.
What you're going to do is you're going to run into PvE enemies and just go... And then off you go. You're going to run into the middle of them and just go, yeah, have some mines, and I'm off now. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a gimmicky one. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Space
weapons. Because there's always something. Discovery, disruptor, or phaser weapons. Well, anything disruptor, immediately we go,
And phaser. I mean, the thing...
Well, phaser's good for PvP. So
relatively. But I mean, some people like their phases. And I saw these phases and they're blue. Okay? That video as well that I just mentioned. They're blue. And they look epic. Okay?
Dabba-dee, dabba-die.
Blue phase.
Blue.
Yeah. Blue weapons are the best.
Yeah,
they're like the heralds.
I don't know if I don't know the color of the disruptors. I think they're green. I hope. I don't like green.
Because that's original, isn't it? Green disruptors. Anyway. Yeah. So disruptors. Just because the discovery versions. What do we think they'll have? Do we think they'll have...
Well, it says below, like, unlike most space weapons, these space weapons come in 3 variants. Each one gives passive stats to your character while equipped. So they are passive stats, no procs, probably. So they'll just give you a straight buff to certain stats. Depending if they stack and how high the stat buff is, these might be really potent, actually. Especially for, like, disruptor available to you, which everybody knows. Disruptors are undeniably the better choice.
Sensor-linked weapons give an increase to weapon amplification and defensive maneuvering.
Crit damage and defense. Crit damage is the key word here. While anti-proton does that too. Crit damage on disruptors. Well, who wouldn't like that?
Yeah. Well, I know you will. A new type of space device, Minitech. Minitech are consumable devices that grant one activation of ability otherwise found on a ship console. The ones available from the Discovery Lockbox will be the following abilities: Temporal Rift Stabilizer, Multi-Dimensional Wave Function Analysis Module, Enhanced Induction Coils, Shield Destabilizer, and Ablative Hazard Shield. If you were going to equip one of these, what would you take?
Enhanced Induction Coils. This console is absurd. Basically, it's a KDF variant. For me, it gives in space 62.5 weapon power, engine power, and auxiliary power. Increases your maximum weapon auxiliary and engine power by 10, so your weapon do more damage significantly, you get a massive overcap, and it makes you immune to energy drain. So if that's not a mini variant, if it's going to be the exact replica of the enhanced induction coils, it's basically just a no-brainer. The ablative hazard shielding is interesting for tanky builds. So, like the heal is pretty good of that console. It's from the Arbiter. The shield destabilizer is pretty bad. The temporal rift stabilizer is also pretty bad, and the multi-dimensional wave function is a super fun console. It's like a purple bubble around your ship, knocking everything away, and kinetic damage just gets reflected. That's actually fun. I'd say enhanced reduction coils and ablative hazard shielding have the most practical use. Okay, one is offensive, the other one is defensive. So I think these two are gonna be like the first choice, depending if they're gonna be weaker variants of the actual consoles or if they're just called mini tech because they can.
Well, we'll wait and see. But I think that covers basically both blog posts. I think we'll leave that for today's episode because I'm just looking at the time. We're cracking on to 55 minutes. We don't want to talk short to go over that. So I'm going to end it by saying I want to thank Dragon and Omega for their time today and joining us on our first Stowe show.
No.
Have you enjoyed it?
No problem.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. And guys, as soon as we get the stats on some of this stuff, we'll try and get another Stowe show up and running. We'll get that recorded. Do check out Omega's channel for all those guys on tactical and PvP. And do check out the other links in the description if you want to see some discovery stuff that Omega is going to send me on what she looks like in game, some of the blue phasers. Thanks for joining as always, and we will see you guys in the next Stowe show. Till then, stay frosty.